How many people know of my story?
Right here, Redbone!
For those who don't, I'll give you a brief overview. I've worked on condensing it and hitting the high points or low points. But the thing is, when I was growing up, sports was my world. All I did was play sports: football, basketball, baseball. Ran track, played soccer, anything with a ball, I played. And I knew and I believed in God, and I knew who Jesus was, but, you know, I didn't really think I needed it. So anytime I'd go to church, it was with my aunt and uncle. And I never really went to church on Sundays or Wednesdays or whenever the doors were open because I was playing sports. So when I got drafted, you know, I was a good kid. You know, I didn't drink in high school. I didn't party. I didn't, you know, do the typical things that teenagers do because I was so focused on what I wanted to accomplish, and that was get drafted and play baseball. So I went to school. My parents were my best friends, basically. I mean, I had a couple friends, but went to school, played sports, went home, did my homework, boom, 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 there it is. So I get drafted, which is a great goal to have. I always wanted to play Major League Baseball. And so I go off, and my rookie season, a couple of things happened to me. And anyway, I come back home, and the same aunt and uncle I went to church with as a little kid, I went to their house and talked to them and just knew I needed to accept Christ and need to have him in my life. And so I went and I accepted Christ, said the prayer, did all those things. But when I did that, I did absolutely nothing to further that relationship or to create the relationship or to create a foundation. And so I said the prayer, that was great. And then over the next 2 years, nothing changed. I didn't make a 180. I didn't turn from my ways of sin, of doing things that were old habits. I didn't do anything to move away from my old life and into the new life of Christ. So, got in a car accident in 2000, I believe it was 2001. And the two things that were consistent in my life were baseball and my parents. And for the first time, I was separated from both those things. And so instead of having that foundation, like I was talking about before, with Jesus, I didn't have it set in place. And that hole I still had, that something was missing in my life, was still there. So I started hanging out in tattoo parlors, and, you know, started doing things that I normally wouldn't do. And so, you know, my parents always taught me, you know, if you're with a group of people and you're not doing what they're doing, well, if you hang out with them long enough, you'll start doing what they're doing. And that's exactly what happened. So, introduced to alcohol, drugs the same night, you know, just went for it all. And, you know, it was the worst decision of my life. Fast forward, I was suspended shortly after that for 3.5 years, almost 4 years from baseball. And through that, I met my wife, which was a blessing. Go Katie. That's right. There's always a good woman out there for you. So I met her, and long story short, let's see, we got married in November, pregnant in December, I relapsed in January. She's thought when I said I was done with drugs and alcohol, that meant I was done. And so she was a little naive to that. But shortly after that, sober for 4 more months, and then decided on my birthday that, hey, I can have a drink. Well, I can't have a drink. Me and drinking do not work out together. So then my wife and I were married for this year, right? The first year of marriage. It was absolutely miserable due to me. Running around, drinking, using drugs. She is pregnant the first year, has the baby, bring the baby home from the hospital. I go out to get her medication, end up at a bar, end up scoring drugs. And just, it was just life consuming. It was consuming everything. I planned everything around using more drugs, doing drugs, drinking, whatever the case may be. So my wife finally got a restraining order against me just so she could get me out of the house and she could sell the house. And so I ended up at my grandmother's house. So 2:30 in the morning. I weighed 230 pounds now. I weighed 180 pounds when I showed up at my grandmother's door. She took me in, loved on me, encouraged me. Ends up, I was using drugs a couple times at her house, and for me to do that, I mean, that lets you know, I love this woman more than anything in the world. And I came out of that back bedroom one night, and she confronted me, and for all the times that people who love me, my parents, Katie, anybody who loved me, confronted me, said, you're a better person than this, you can do great things. We believe in you, you can turn your life around. All these things that have been told to me in the past and just kind of went one ear out the other. I was actually high when my grandmother was telling me these things again. And she said all these things to me, and God cleared my head, and he opened my heart at that very moment, allowed me to see the pain and the hurt on her face and the tears running down her face. And for the first time, I understood that it wasn't about I wasn't just hurting myself. I was hurting everybody around me who I interacted with, my family, my wife, my kids. And it wasn't just about me. So I went in my back bedroom, I closed the door, and my grandmother had placed a Bible in my bedroom. And I had taken it and I had hidden up under the clothes as far as where I could get in the closet in the back corner. So I go underneath over and grab it, dig it out, throw it on the bed, go back and close the door, come back. The first verse I read is James 4:7, humble yourself before God, resist the devil and he'll flee from you. And at that very moment is when I got down on my knees and cried out to God and surrendered to God and really said, you know what, God? I said, I prayed the prayer before, but obviously I didn't do anything to pursue you. So I really realize now that that's when I really accepted Christ. When I cried out to him, when I surrendered, when I said, you know what, Lord, my way's not working, obviously. I said, I need your help. I surrender my life in every aspect and do with it what you will. And at that very moment is when I made that 180. And the 180 was starting to read the Word, starting to pray, starting to fellowship with other believers, people who actually care for you, who love you, who want to see you do good. That's when the turn and the change happened. And so quickly after that, it's amazing the stuff I mess up, God will restore. He's faithful to do that and shows grace. And I'm just a witness of his grace, obviously. But shortly after that, our baby, new baby, Sierra, she got sick, and Katie and I were separated. We weren't divorced. And so she called me, and we started taking the baby to Sierra to the doctor and spending time together. And slowly we started mending things and getting back together. So fast forward. Within 6 months of surrendering my life to Christ in my grandmother's back bedroom, I'd been out of baseball for almost 4 years. And I had a separated relationship with my wife. Didn't have a relationship with my kids. Was killing myself with drugs and alcohol. Living in my grandma's back bedroom. And the moment that I decided and let everything go and said, Lord, rule my life, he started ruling it. Everything changed and moved in a different direction. That was relationship restored with my wife, with my kids. Baseball, which was a lost cause at this point, hadn't even thought about it, was restored. Within 6 months, I was, let's see, where was I? I was down in Florida at Winning Inning. And 3 months after that, I was picked up by the Cincinnati Reds, picked up by the Cubbies for 30 minutes. They traded me to Cincinnati, and that's how I got back in the league. But above all that, my relationship had truly started with Jesus Christ. And so, on my own, where was I? It was bad. Making mistakes, one after the other. Same mistakes. They call it, the definition of insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, Well, I was continuously doing the same thing over and over, expecting something different to happen. And it just wasn't happening until I fully gave my life to Christ.